the individual is to serve the rulers of the state.
Do you plan to give away the majority of your wealth?
Yeah, I do.
I don't have that many things that are extravagant tastes.
Again! Yeah, I missed the brokey day.
You're broke! You're fucking poor!
And this is a great thing because it inspires everybody, gets the motivation to look up to the 1%.
Money is only a tool. Money can't buy happiness. Money isn't everything. You can be rich without money.
Stop. Money controls your life. Shying away from reality only complicates things. Money is the representation of your value, and your value is exchanged and traded as a commodity. You sell your time for money, then use that money to purchase time from others. If you have skills that are particularly valuable, you'll earn more money for every hour of your time. Every decision you make is based on money. Whether you're the type to clip coupons or not ultimately doesn't matter, because in the back of your mind, you know you're trading precious moments of your finite life for goods and services. Money is time, and time is the most scarce asset in the world. As we chase money, we're encouraged to save it, savings that will eventually provide freedom, because money is freedom, right? Wrong. This couldn't be further from the truth. To understand money, let's go back in time to over 5,000 years ago where barter was used. Barter is a direct trade of goods and services. For example, a farmer could trade food for a pair of shoes from a shoemaker. It worked, but these arrangements were complicated and took time. A more efficient method was needed. Thus, money was born. The first known money was created in 600 BC, where the Lydians minted silver and gold coins stamped with pictures that acted as denominations. This was revolutionary for their era, allowing intrinsically valuable metals to facilitate transactions, eliminating the complications of barter. They served three key functions, consistent with the very definition of money that we know today: a store of value, a unit of account, and a medium of exchange. Fast forward thousands of years, and the world's monetary system is not even remotely the same. In fact, it doesn't even line up with the definition of money. It is a system rooted in evil, designed to take lives and dismantle any form of security among the populace. This didn't happen by accident. In 1913, President Woodrow Wilson introduced the United States Federal Reserve, commonly referred to as the Fed. The name is misleading because it's a private entity, not part of the government. It was advertised as a way to stabilize the American banking system by overseeing monetary policy. The Fed had access to an array of policy tools, such as the ability to create money and manipulate interest rates. This may seem bad, but the US dollar was on a gold standard, where every single dollar was backed by and could be exchanged for gold. It put a strict limit on money printing, which kept the Fed from engaging in expansionary policies. However, the gold standard was abandoned in 1933 during the Great Depression after executive orders by President Franklin D. Roosevelt and controversial Supreme Court rulings. Even private gold ownership was made illegal. All Americans had to sell their gold to the government at a price of $20.67 per ounce. Those caught with gold faced up to 10 years in prison. Immediately after confiscating the gold, FDR raised the price of gold to $35 per ounce, diminishing the value of the dollar by 41%. It was a plan to deliberately devalue the dollar from the start. Although the gold standard was brought back to a limited capacity later on, the Federal Reserve now had access to manipulate the money supply along with other monetary tools. Tools that would eventually send any nation into oblivion. But shortly after, World War II began, and this changed everything. In many ways, World War II was the best thing to happen to the United States. It feels weird to say that, considering the 300,000 Americans that died, but the war established the US as the world's largest superpower, both militarily and economically. The dollar became the global reserve currency, unchallenged up to this day, with massive implications for the global economy. The United States could now print money more easily because it was subsidized by the rest of the world. By the late 1960s, the US was running record-high budget deficits. Then in the 1970s, inflation shot up due to a combination of budget deficits, lower interest rates, and the oil embargo. The response was to completely eliminate what was left of the gold standard, officially turning the dollar into fiat money, a government-issued currency that is not backed by a physical commodity. The US took advantage of this, increasing the money supply to new highs, making all previous deficits look tiny in comparison. It appears counterintuitive to print money with already high inflation, but interest rates were increased by the Fed to nearly 20% in order to bring inflation to a halt. The crisis was diverted, though it established normalcy to exuberant money printing, with deficit spending increasing decade over decade. During every crisis, part of the solution was to print money. Whether it was the crash of 1987, the dot-com bubble, the 2008 recession, the COVID crash, or the bank failures, more money was printed to divert the crisis. This wasn't without cost though. Inflation has re-emerged as a topic in recent years because of undisputable price increases in consumer goods. Inflation has really been active for many years, especially in the last 2 decades due to copious money printing and a federal funds rate of practically 0%. Consumer goods increased in price, but the notable increases were in higher ticket purchases such as insurance, automobiles, college tuition, and real estate. The inflation rate that the government assessed was always a farce, consisting of carefully picked items and deceptive practices on how price increases are actually measured. More recently, interest rates increased to levels not seen in a while, but the price of these items have not changed, and in some cases even went up. How can mortgage rates go from 2.5% to 7% without homes dropping in value? The answer is, once again, inflation. Inflation at its core is a lie. It is not defined by price increases like the government pretends it is. The very definition of inflation is simply the expansion of the money supply. Every time money is created, that is inflation. It doesn't matter how much the government pretends that prices aren't going up based on their corrupted data. Printing money is inflation, and with inflation comes the illusion of wealth. You get a raise at your job, earn interest on your savings, and experience price appreciation on your investments. Your balance grows, but you don't always feel richer. That's because, in many cases, you're not. Let's look at bank interest rates today. You could get 4% or perhaps 5% in a CD. In fact, you might be able to lock in 5% for 5 years in a CD. This could be a huge mistake. For example, with inflation at 6%, you'd have a real rate of return of -1%. Factoring in the ordinary income taxes you'd pay on the earnings, you could be looking at a real rate of return of -2 or 3% annually. Maybe you earn 10% in the stock market, but for the year, inflation was 8%. After taxes, your real rate of return would be close to 0. The same calculations apply to a raise or any other increase in your income or wealth. Your house went up by 10%? If all the other houses went up 10%, that increase when you eventually sell means nothing. In the meantime, you get to enjoy the rise in property taxes and insurance rates. The 6% increase in Social Security payments? It's negligible, and you were probably better off the year before the increase. Money doesn't matter. Purchasing power does. Housing has become unaffordable for younger generations. Strapped with debt and stunted by low wage growth, the future appears hopeless. It's practically a sick joke that 15.3% is taken out of every paycheck for Social Security and Medicare taxes, purchasing power that they will likely never receive in the future. It's not just the youth. Seniors will inevitably see declining standards of living in upcoming decades. Promises of Social Security will be paid. It would be politically unpopular to cut benefits which make up a significant portion of the federal budget. You better believe that every last penny of Social Security entitlements will be distributed, but don't blindly expect the dollars to have much purchasing power. In fact, they might not even be worth the paper they're printed on. Understand that you've been lied to about the monetary system. Money is not freedom. It's also important to note that nothing I'm about to say is financial advice. It is simply analysis and conclusions that I've made on economic data and history. Given that the United States is a democracy, the outcome is predictable. Republican or Democrat, politicians will print endless sums of money to avoid economic contraction, even if it means high inflation, because the general voter base doesn't grasp that short-term pain is necessary for a healthy economy. Perhaps we'll end up with stagflation, slow economic growth, and high inflation. No matter what, inflation will likely be in the picture. The government is effectively diluting your wealth, rendering your time increasingly useless, pulling the rug out from under you at every chance they get. Every debt you take on is another blow to your finances, and in conjunction, an attack on the life that you desperately want to live. The wealthiest among our society understand this. Instead of experiencing the pain, they actually benefit. You've probably heard that the ultra-rich don't pay much in taxes. While this is true, the reason for it is misleading. The vast majority of a billionaire's wealth is tied up in assets. Assets that appreciate in value and aren't taxed until they are sold. In the low interest rate environment that we've had for most of the last 20 years, the rich and powerful can borrow against their assets at low rates and avoid paying taxes. In a free market, this would never be possible because rates wouldn't be artificially low and the appreciation of assets wouldn't be expedited by inflation. Two-faced bureaucrats advocate for more government intervention, the same intervention that got us in this situation from the beginning, acting as a giant octopus, using its tentacles to grab and choke the efficiencies of a sound financial system. A basic example is the cost of college. Low interest rate loans guaranteed by the government have propelled the cost to levels that would never be seen in a free market. Most retirees seek to take on less risk as they age. This usually means purchasing bonds and putting money in the bank to earn interest. Although this may appear smart on the surface, the macro environment has rapidly changed. Anyone who does this could see their purchasing power evaporate over the next few decades. Young and middle-aged people that do the same could see severe consequences for their financial future, as they never allowed their purchasing power to grow. Others go the route of investing in real estate or stocks. While this can be great, it's possible that these investments don't keep up with inflation. Tech stocks that outperformed other industries may inverse, or perhaps tech will do well, but the largest companies trading at high multiples will disappoint. Ultimately, no one can predict the future, but one thing is certain: hoarding a pile of money under your mattress is bound for disaster. A diversified portfolio may end up being the safest bet, consisting of commodities, US stocks, international stocks, real estate, and a percentage of bonds and cash in the bank depending on your risk tolerance. Everyone is impacted by inflation, and history has shown that the ones who hold money experience the worst of it, because money is not wealth. Money is not freedom. Modern money is nothing but a scam perpetuated by the institutions that control us. As your money erodes away, the sweat and toil you put in goes with it. Lost time, never to be seen again. If you enjoyed this video, I bet you'll enjoy the ones on the screen. I have more episodes coming soon all about the world of business. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.